Welcome to Vino with Vito. And today Nina is not available. She's out showing houses. But we have Dave Taramina, a.k.a. Pecker, who was our first guest on the show. He's going to co-host today with me. And as he did the first time, he didn't bring a bottle of wine again today. But today, our guest is Roseanne Shanley from Old School Title. But look, Dave, she bought a nice bottle of wine.
That is very nice. Huh? Well, listen, first I want to thank you again for having me. I was the first guest when you first started this podcast, so to have me on here, a lot of, big shoes to fill with Nina not here, but I want to thank you. And Roseanne, nice to meet you as well.
Yes, thank you both for having me. I'm really happy to talk about this, and, it's an industry I love.
Great. And Dave, last time you were busting my shirt so bad that it needed batteries. Today I wore a different kind of shirt.
I love it.
Look,
fabulous.
Glass of wine.
Is that,
and a cigar. I know the reason I got this one, my son loves cigars, so I figured, you know what? I love wine, he loves cigars, and Robert Graham made a nice shirt here.
Is that a Robert Graham?
What do you think?
Wow. Look at that.
My favorite shirts are Robert Graham.
So Vito, tell this, not to hijack the conversation here, but Robert Graham, when you walk into the Short Hill store, you're now a celebrity because of the podcast. From the last time I was on, right? Tell everybody what happens when you walk into the store.
They know me. They see all the shirts I use, and it's a great store. I love Robert Graham. But
they come out and shake your hand.
They come out and shake my hand, and they say, "There goes Vino with Vito."
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Let's put the cork in here. Thank you, Victoria. So, Roseanne, Old School Title. Where did you get that name, Old School Title? I love it. Old school, and
I'm all Italian. I was raised very old school ways. I was taught the business by a man that from the beginning was the traditional old-fashioned working on a typewriter, going down the courthouse, reading and searching. And I just felt that was me and the way I run my business and the way I care.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's a good catchy name.
When did you start in title?
In 1986.
Okay.
I went on work study senior year of high school, and I started at a title company.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And by the way, Roseanne bought a nice bottle of Robert Mondavi bourbon barrel.
Bourbon. She recently just started drinking bourbon too. You were telling us before.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
never knew I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can start doing bourbon with Vito.
Bourbon with Vito. Salud. Thank you.
Salud.
Thank you for the wine. Not like this guy. Very good. Very good. I like it. You like it?
I didn't try it.
What are you waiting for? It's a night podcast. We can drink during it.
It's night. Oh, it's nighttime.
It's nighttime.
Oh,
it's not daytime out there. What, are you kidding me? By the way, Roseanne bought us some goodies, and we'll go open them later on. I got you a nice shirt too, Roseanne.
Thank you.
Vino with Vito. Don't wear
Love
it in the
it.
Fairfield Park. The squirrels will attack you. But going back to title, I mean, everybody's got to realize how important it is to have title. Some people say, "Hey, I'm buying a house cash. I don't need it."
Yep.
Tell us why it's so important to have it.
So you'd be surprised, I'm doing this a long time and people think it must be redundant, the same thing. It's not. I find an issue every single time, right? So we come up with different scenarios that cause problems in your buyer. You as a realtor, they confide in you. You become their best friend. And they tell you, I love this house and I'm going to put a swimming pool and we're going to do an addition. And, well, okay, but you now have easements and restrictions. You can't do what you need to do. Or we have in the chain that they didn't take care of liens and resolve issues. We also have where we have people that you went and signed the listing with Joe. Meanwhile, he didn't tell you that Mary and Bob were in title. And so these are things you need to resolve. So title insurance is from the day you purchase back, right? So average searches are 60 years. So we go back and we make sure from the day you buy it that you are free and clear. Different than car insurance. Car insurance, you buy today, you have it till your car, right? So it protects you. Any person comes up and claims ownership or claims ownership of that property or contests something on your property, your lines, whatever, you have an underwriter that completely backs you. Lawyers, covers all your fees, takes care of everything. And trust me, there has been plenty of claims. There's a lot every day. There's a reason for it.
Can you give us like a crazy claim that, over the years that happened, to you that you insured the title and all of a sudden somebody's coming after you?
Yeah, we had something a few months ago. The deal closed. There was only one person in title. About a month after closing, a stranger came out of the blue and made a claim that they had an ownership interest in the property. So these were two investors. One didn't go in title. She fronted the money. He was supposed to take care of her. He didn't. She had to go after him. So what that becomes is a claim of ownership. So the owner that owned the property was completely protected by the underwriter to fight and win, and go through this process, which is very costly. So that was a big one. And the woman won the rights for the money, not the rights to the ownership. But it involved you. It involved the owner. It involved your property in question. The underwriter jumps in. The policy protected this owner. They were able to remain in the house, and everything got cleared up. If you didn't have an owner's policy, that was a whole thing that went on. That could be $20,000, $30,000 in lawyer fees to fight it.
Right.
So that's one instance. We've come up with many things where families are trying to sell through estates. There's kids, there's this one. We've had attorneys, they have to hire a PI. We have to find the person.
Wow.
If you don't find the person, we have to do a quiet title action.
What's a quiet title action?
So that's where when you've exhausted all efforts and there's a cloud on title,
Yep.
and you need to resolve it and you need to prove to the court that you have done everything you can. So this family had 6 children. One child was a person that lived on the street. They couldn't find him. And they had to hire a PI. They had to show that they did everything. That's a process.
Did they ever find the guy in the street?
No.
No? Wow.
Nope. So that's where the quiet title action came into play.
Okay.
So now what would happen if all of a sudden a guy in the street realized that they just sold his property and came forward afterwards?
Well, afterwards that wouldn't count now
That wouldn't
because
count.
they've already gone through the due diligence process. But that's what we look for. We have one right now. The son, they didn't want the son to sign, and there's issues and long story about it. Went through every avenue trying to resolve it, and there is none. You've got to make him sign. He's got to sign. He lives in the house.
Okay.
The investor wanted to take ownership with the son living in the house and would deal with it afterwards, except it's not an eviction. It becomes an ejection. Who actually has an ownership interest. It gets very involved.
Yeah,
the
it does.
ejection,
And everybody
all of
has a
sudden,
story.
Yeah.
There's a story on every property. So when you deal with title, you deal with law. So I'm dealing with estate law, matrimonial law, bankruptcy law. There's a lot of, it's all law.
Accounting and taxes, like 1031 exchanges.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I deal with numbers and money, and so it's a lot to do. Years ago, this is not what we did.
Yeah.
We did title, we read it, and we handed it off. Now we do everything.
When I started in the mortgage business, we would get the title, and that's what I started. I read title searches. So the title company would just send us the title, and we would, sometimes clear the conditions or work with the title company. But it has shifted over the last few years where the title company does everything.
I do everything.
Yeah.
I go above and beyond. When I say those words, I mean them.
Mm-hmm.
I have realtors and attorneys calling me, listen, we can't get the HOA on the phone. We can't even get the questionnaire filled out. We need this. We can't figure out what's gone on with the septic permits. I go online for them. I find solutions and resolutions of how we're going to get to the closing table. And then I teach how we don't have this problem before you list. Go through this process, all your time, all your marketing. You find a buyer, we go through this process, now everyone's in an uproar. When if you told me this in the beginning, we could have resolved it.
One of the main issues I see, I feel like this is what I run into a lot, is estate issues where estate taxes maybe aren't paid correctly, or there's a relative that comes out of the woodwork or whatever. So so do you have like any advice for somebody who, let's just say, inherits a property or is like an executor of the estate handling it? What landmines can they avoid when it pertains to title?
So the first thing I tell my realtors when you go in and you take the listing and you find out it's an estate, the first question you ask is, has it been probated?
Okay.
Okay. If they say no or have no clue what that word means,
don't
go any further.
Yeah.
We need to get them either an estate attorney or a real estate attorney that does estate works to help assist in probating.
Okay.
Now, probating an estate is two categories. One is with a will, one is without a will. So we need to know if there's a will. Well, what does the will say? Was it a specific devise? Did it say that this property is specific to Tom Jones? We need to know that, because then if you're sitting there with Mary, we need Tom Jones involved. So there's different avenues, especially if I, bequeath all my residue and remainder and it has 3 children and you're sitting there with 1. We don't know. So we have a lot of fighting going on over values and things like that. So I tell everybody, which we have a lot of. In the past year, well, I should say in the past couple of years, especially sadly to say with COVID, a lot more estates. Everybody's selling right away, the estates.
Right.
And then we have issues. No one's probating, no one processing. Use people in the business that know what your deal is. If you're selling a house and your client is telling you they're selling for bankruptcy, make sure you have an attorney that does bankruptcy and real estate.
Right.
Both, though, not just one, because then they call me and say, we can't do the real estate part. Who can we use? Use an estate attorney that does real estate. If you're in a divorce, make sure it's a divorce attorney that does real estate.
Right.
So I'm very big on telling everybody, don't call Cousin Joe, who's a litigator, who's in court all day and doesn't do real estate, because real estate is 2,500 emails to get through the process and a lot of phone calls. He can't handle that. So I tell everybody, know your client and know what the situation is and know exactly where it is before you even get started. Because if you get started and you go through the process, our goal in the end is to make everybody happy, right? And in the end, that gives us a referral. And that makes everybody happy and look good. We are not HGTV. Okay? It's not 3 houses and there's no problems. There's not a walkthrough issue. We all sit at the closing table.
Right.
So it's important to know who your clients are, and as well as your buyer, what is your buyer's intention here? To know this. So I say everybody be prepared and know, and then we won't have the escrows. I just did one in June. The escrow was $135,000. That's a big hit when you're selling and buying.
And the house they were selling was $150,000.
Yeah, how about that?
And I'm still holding in an escrow, and that's from June.
Wow.
And that's something you don't want to do because, the money's in your account there.
The money's in my
you don't wanna hold
account,
it.
and what people don't realize is title companies. So I have 2 underwriters. I have Fidelity and Westcore, 2 top underwriters. You get audited. Every title company gets audited every year by your underwriters.
Right.
It's like an attorney trust account, basically.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And that's why the
Attorneys don't want to even hold.
They don't want to do it
escrow
because
anymore.
do you know how much I do on just balancing? I have an accountant, and I have a bookkeeper.
How many people do you have working for you?
So I have 12 on payroll.
Wow. And that's not including people you contract out, like examiners and.
Not examiner. Yeah, no, that's
so
all
you have,
contract.
So you have
Now-
a pretty robust business then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Now I have a question. Is it still done the old-fashioned way where you go to like Essex County, you go to Newark,
In the basement.
in the
I
basement?
don't anymore.
No, but
I
do
contract out the people.
No, but do the examiners.
Do the
we-
examiners still do
Yeah.
that?
They do for a portion, so everything is online now. So there's a lot I can get for people online, which is a service I offer. If you have a question, before you even start your process, ask me because I have a world of information I can get you and look at right away. But yes, not everything is all the way back. So yes, they still are in the courthouse.
They're in the basement with
Yeah,
your
that's how I
glasses on
started.
and
Yeah,
looking through,
I've actually
everything.
gone there in Hackensack and Bergen County down into probably the late 90s. It was a dusty basement. It really was.
It's dirty and big books, and I
Yeah.
used to go to Essex, Passaic, Bergen, and Hudson.
Yeah.
Yep, and
You find
you learn a
George
lot.
Washington's deed down there.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, we still have handwritten deeds for
Yeah.
easements, restrictions, things like that. Very old complexes. I mean, they're handwritten. They're not easy to read.
So now, once like these easements are recorded and stuff, it's always going to follow that
Runs with the
property,
land.
and always runs with the land.
It
There's
runs.
no way of getting rid of that easement unless the parties agree to it. Correct?
They'd have to agree to it, and sometimes they become null and void. You'll realize there'll be things that are obsolete for us now. No horse and buggies are allowed to drive on the road.
Right.
You know, I mean, so you get that. No chicken coops are allowed to be bigger than this. You know, the common easement that causes the biggest issue is the common driveway easement.
That's what I
Yes.
was trying to get
Yeah.
at, because I remember as a kid when we first came from Italy back in the late 60s, my grandfather owned a house, and my parents and my uncle decided to buy the house next door, which we ended up buying. But there was always an easement attached to the house next door. Their property was 25 by 100. My grandfather's was 50 by 100. He had the driveway with the garages. The other house had, the driveway went up to their house, but it wasn't their driveway.
Right.
But they had the right of way to
A
get
right of
into
way.
the back and get out. But they could not leave the car idling or parked in that driveway.
Because a right-of-way gives you access from one point of the property to the other part of the property. It doesn't have ownership value. But on common driveways, I mean, people will draft new easements and during the process create new ones. A lot of people don't have them because, hey, Vito, so we have a common
Right,
driveway.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
listen,
handshake,
we're going to pave
right.
it next year. All right, yeah, let's pave it next year. I have people that have issues. One client had a huge tree in the middle of the driveway. One neighbor wanted to cut it down, the other one didn't. So now you have this. The other neighbor said, "Listen, I can get in no problem." This side said, "But the roots are coming up. I'm having an issue." So now you have to have an easement to really spell that out if it's causing a problem
Right.
for your access. So it is a thing to be concerned about, and it's an easement you want. And if we don't find one, so a lot of times people will call me and say, "Well, before I list this, there's a common driveway. Is there an easement of record?" If there isn't, then the attorneys want to draft one.
So
Because
then, okay. So then
For
they'll
snow
draft-
removal, just think about
Right.
it. Snow removal,
Right.
pavement, tree,
Excuse me.
anything, fences. You know, you could put up a fence, but now you can't pull your car around properly because now the fence is there. So there are different reasons why you want to have one.
Right.
So I have a question. It's a New Jersey specific question for your audience. And it's like an age-old question in real estate. Is it Taylor ham or no, I'm just kidding. Why is it that in North Jersey, and there's like this imaginary line in Middlesex County where a real estate attorney will handle the closing, and then you go south of the imaginary Mason-Dixon line in New Jersey, and then the title company handles everything. I have two questions. Why is there an imaginary line, and where, and how did that start, and where is that line, if you could kind of talk about that? And why is that line there?
I don't know whatever came about of why that line came. What I can tell you is this. That line is imaginary, okay? We close files north and south with and without an attorney. Doesn't
So
matter.
even in the north, you do them without
Without
an
You could
attorney.
close it in
I
No,
have-
we
yeah.
do, but
Yeah.
hardly
have
anybody does that.
I deal with a lot of investors or, people that are pretty savvy and they don't want to pay the extra fee and they don't want an attorney, okay? It doesn't matter whether they're buying North Jersey or South Jersey.
Right.
South Jersey has this claim of, no, the title company does
Right.
everything.
It's like a common business practice, but it's not the
It
law.
was a long time ago, okay? So realize I'm doing this, I'm in my almost 37th year. In the very beginning, it was just the practice of the way South Jersey did it. We don't need an attorney. Okay?
Even in North Jersey.
No,
You're just
from the
referring to
line
South-
down,
right, correct,
right?
right.
That's how it started.
Right.
But then it grew, and people realized for a lot of instances they did need an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So I say this: the line is imaginary. I do closings with and without attorneys all over the state. It doesn't matter where it is. What I say personally, if you're savvy and you know real estate and you can negotiate a contract, and if you run into trouble and you need to get out of that contract or negotiate your inspections, whatever it might be, and you can handle that, then you go right ahead and you do that. But you are buying, and I don't care if you buy 10 houses a year or this is your second house in your lifetime. You are buying something that there's a lot of legal issues with.
Right.
For the cost of an average attorney on a real estate transaction runs anywhere from $1,200 to about $1,600. You're buying on average most houses, you want to say nowadays, are $500,000 at least.
It's not expensive to have an attorney.
Exactly.
No, not
So
at all.
this is my old school way. You use an attorney, you buy a survey, you get title insurance. These are three things that are very minimal. Title insurance, first of all, is a one-time fee. It's not recurring insurance that you pay every year for insurance.
Right.
It's a one-time fee, and you are covered for the lifetime of your home. A survey is the same thing. It's a one-time fee.
Right.
A survey average is $700, and if you want stakes, to $1,200. You're buying $500,000 house or more. An attorney is there to resolve legal issues. Now, if I do a file that has no attorney, regardless of north or south, if a legal issue comes up, I have to advise you that there's a legal issue.
Right.
You have the right to an attorney. They then have a right to bring one in at that point if needed. But this line came of South Jersey saying, you know, title companies can do it all, and we don't need an attorney, and realtors are going to help them with the contract. But what they were actually was happening is, well, who was negotiating the contract? If your client doesn't understand a contract, then who was helping the realtor? So you have to watch the line of practicing law. So
Because if you start giving legal advice and you're not an attorney, you're going to get in trouble.
Absolutely. So you have to watch the line. But yeah, I do many of people that close, and it doesn't matter. I feel the line is completely imaginary.
It's funny though, because it's like one of those things in New Jersey, and unless you're like in the real estate community or you're buying a house, you don't really think about it, right? But it's like one of those things I've always wondered, like, where did this come from?
I had a couple people, not to interrupt you, Dave, where they're like, why do I need an attorney? You know, you're telling me right on opinion 26, you know, you don't need an attorney to close real estate. But I said, then keep reading. As a realtor, I'm advising you to get an attorney, because don't come to me. I can't give you legal advice. But a lot of buyers, you know, or sellers, hey, you can give me no, I'm not giving you any legal advice.
Listen, a common thing I have that comes up that, you know, a layman might not know which way to handle. So I deal with a lot of parties that buy multifamily homes, and they wanted to buy it maybe to live in one of the units and rent only, say it's a 3-family, and they wanted to rent out 2, but their intention is to live in the one. They need to get that tenant out. They need to make sure that the rent's paid at the time of close. Do you know how many people don't pay the rent because they find out the house is being sold? And now we're sitting at a closing. So now the attorney jumps in to say, wait a second, I'm not taking this on in a deficit to begin with. I want to collect the rent. I want the rent paid up front. There's different avenues.
And if you're getting a mortgage, the mortgage company is going to require that one of those, you know, especially if it's your primary residence,
if it's
that one of those tenants are going to be out of there so that you're moving in. That's a condition of your mortgage. So as the buyer, are you going to knock on the door and ask the person to leave? Right? Like, that's why you need, you know, somebody represent you.
I was at a closing in a multifamily too, like you said, and you know, it was right at the time when the rent was due, and the seller's like, no, they're going to pay you the rent, and the attorney goes, no, you're paying the rent for them right now, or else we're not closing. No, but they're going to pay you. I don't care if they're going to pay or not. You pay us, and then you can go collect it from them. So,
and these are things that what I do that are different. I read my title, I read your contract, and I know everything that's going on. So I start with my list of asking all the questions. Don't pertain to title. Rent does not pertain to title. But I'm the settlement agent. It pertains to me because I have to know the rent and security, right?
Yeah.
So I put all these questions out there because why? Everyone's handling hundreds of files, right? And then they forget oh, this file, all of a sudden you're getting pressure. It's got to close. The rate's expiring. Everybody hurry. I have to have the baby's
Let's
first
get
birthday. On the first, we have to close by then, right?
Right, sure.
So I put all these items out there. I say bulk sales. Does it apply? It applies here, guys. They jump in, they ask me, it doesn't affect me as title.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but bulk sales,
Yeah.
right? If you have a company, I deal with somebody that does a lot of this and a lot of investing and flipping houses and stuff. And the biggest thing is all the time the attorneys, well, is this a bulk sale?
Right.
The other attorney will go, this is their form of business. They're not subject to bulk sale. But you still get some attorneys, well, I still want to go, investigate and go through the bulk sale.
So to avoid bulk sales, if you are not an individual that owns a 1 or 2 family house, bulk sales apply.
Right.
Okay? So
This
ABC,
is for
people who maybe
this is
don't-
for an LLC.
So-
LLC or corporation.
So
is
for people who
automatic.
maybe don't understand what a bulk sale is, maybe can you just elaborate like what a bulk sale is?
So what happened was this wasn't around years ago. So the government tax came in and said, wait a minute, here's another tax we can collect ahead of time while they're selling a property with equity, get paid ahead of time as opposed to waiting
Before they sell it.
Before they when they sell it.
While they-
during
right,
during the
okay,
process of the
right.
sale, as opposed to waiting for tax returns to be filed and them to get that money.
Got it.
Okay.
They always get
So
their
it's another way that they were able to get that money up front ahead of time. Okay.
And now, how do you
Because-
avoid that? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Is it because I didn't mean to cut you off.
Because a selling of an asset can dissolve a company, and then there is no money. So this is a way for them. So this came out years ago.
Government always gets their money, baby.
Always. So it became a big topic, and I became the connoisseur of bulk sales, of when it applies and when it does. So in the norm, a 1 to 2 family house is exempt from bulk sales as long as it is an individual or a couple.
Okay.
If the 3 of us individually, non-husband and wife, own a 2-family house as an investment property, we could be subject to bulk sales.
Because we're like an entity, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
if
We're
we owned
non-husband and wife, not
Right.
2
Correct.
individuals.
Okay.
But now, if all 3 of us had an LLC and we're selling a single-family house, we can still be subject
Now,
to bulk sale.
You could be subject to bulk sales. How do I get exempt from being as an
Yes.
LLC or
There
a
you go.
corporation?
Vito
Okay.
likes to get around the government, so this is for
No,
him.
no, it's not.
No,
It's not
so
getting
the
around the
thing
government.
is-
It's just
Just
something
kidding.
I want to know.
Investors buy homes, right? And they flip houses.
Right.
Some investors use the same name, right?
Correct.
So Vito and Roseanne Construction. Okay, now we're buying and selling. To not have bulk sales apply, you have to have sales and buys within a 12-month period
How many?
to prove your normal course of business. There is no definitive. We average it out on 2 to 3.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you look up the law, it says it's got to prove ordinary course. What happens, and this is the problem I have, and we just had a file with this, is every investor, and you'll know this, buys a piece of property and calls it what? 102
102
Park
Street.
Street LLC.
LLC. Yeah.
And then they go and buy 33 West North Street.
And then 5 old
And-
school
Right.
lanes.
Yeah.
So now what happens is your ordinary course of business goes by the entity name that you have now created. That entity does not have ordinary course of business because it purchased and sold one property.
But can they go back to other entities that company owns? Like you and I all of a sudden made 5 or 6 different entities.
If me and you only,
Correct.
never a change,
Like taking on a third partner or something.
Right.
you came in on 102, he came in on 103.
Then
If
you're-
it stayed me and you, there is an exemption process that they will allow.
Now,
That
who
normally
helps-
doesn't
happen,
happen
right.
because they add and change. Me
Change.
and you are going to do this house, then the 3 of us are doing
will
that
do the
house.
other one, right? The reason I say that is I had an attorney where their normal business, the LLC, was buying and flipping houses, and they did so many, but the attorney still wanted to file for a bulk sale,
Well-
and held up the closing for like an additional 2 weeks after the other attorney showed him, look, these are all the sales they did. What are you doing?
It's very easy to prove.
Yeah.
So when an attorney calls me up and asks me, "Bro, they're telling me it's ordinary course of business. What's the name?" Okay. 123 LLC. I look it up, 123 LLC. Well, I found none in Essex. I can tell you in minutes. I don't find any in the last year in Bergen. I've got none in Passaic. Where did they buy and sell?
Right.
The difference the attorney sometimes gets confused is, well, I did a deal with them 2 years ago. They sold that house. And 3 years ago, it's within the course of 12 months.
Right.
You have to prove ordinary course of business.
Right.
That's
Gotcha.
it. And the other part of it is you'll get a letter in on bulk sales, and it might say an escrow to hold. There's part 2, which everybody forgets to fill out, and I sent it all the time. I'm like, the seller filling out an asset declaration page with their accountant normally resolves your bulk sales to under 20,000 or a complete zero reduction.
As an investor, you should probably repeat that for them. Say that again, because that seems very important.
There is 2 parts of filing for bulk sales. There is the standard form, which is pretty much information and a copy of the contract of the buyer and seller.
Okay.
There is part 2. It's called an asset declaration page. It is a 1-page, very simple form.
Okay.
Not always for the actual investor. He might have to go to his accountant and say, help me fill this out. It's 1 page, very
Right.
simple. That page being submitted to bulk sales completely reduces. I just had the scenario. The investor has bought probably 10 houses in the past 2 years under a different LLC name each individual time. Bulk sales came back without the asset declaration page, required $75,000. The seller called me up. She said, you said it would be less. I said, did you fill out the asset declaration page? No. They filled it out, sent it in, came to zero.
To zero.
And
There
that's
you go.
where, like, you have, I'm assuming you have your value, where, you know.
You have your value, your cost.
No, I mean you
No,
personally.
you
like where,
personally.
Yeah, like you
by-
personally,
Oh,
like,
by what,
yeah.
by
like,
what
yeah.
you do. I mean,
Right,
this is
like-
very educational
Yeah,
for me. I'm
absolutely.
learning so much about
Yeah.
bulk sales and, you know,
Same
and,
here,
and
I
everything
mean,
else. You know,
absolutely.
there's so much involved on the back end that
Yeah.
people don't realize.
They don't really
know?
see you into the
It's-
day of
They
closing.
don't. People
yeah.
don't realize
Yeah.
what I do from beginning to end.
to
and
end. Right.
How
Involved it is. Like
Yes.
like here, for me, I go show the house or I list the house, we get a contract, they go to Dave at US Bank, they get a mortgage. Now we got to go to closing, and you know, you pick up everything up from there, and the attorney. People don't realize what you have to do to make this
Behind the
happen.
scenes. Yeah.
Well, I have a file right now that the client bought at a sheriff's sale. So we have plenty of people buy at a sheriff's sale. But normally I get the phone call with your 10-day due diligence. Hey, I'm interested in this property. I need you to do a
Right.
search. Let's check everything, right? Sheriff's office gives you time. Anyway, I have somebody that bought the property without an owner's policy. Happens to be a small $2,200 judgment versus a prior owner that was never addressed and taken care of. It's obviously caused an issue right now. So the current person that's selling now has to pay this.
Has to pay that $2,200.
They didn't buy an
do it.
owner's policy. We can't find the prior
Right.
owner. You took on title without clearing this.
Right.
Now, it was $2,500 face value. Maybe it's going to be $3,500, let's
Right.
call it
Right.
now.
Right.
That's it.
But you have to put that out of your pocket. So there's reasons why you need due diligence and what we do and what's going on. But what I'm saying is, in trying to resolve this, I tried to find the policy. We tried to go back to when that owner purchased and reached out to those parties, the attorneys listed, the title companies. We reached out to the surveyor that we saw on the deed. These are things I'm trying to do to resolve it. So if we can resolve this and you not pay it
Right.
and
Right.
get to closing.
She even went to the basement in Hackensack with the dust and everything.
Yeah, I see that. if I could pivot for a second, something I always hear like on radio and on advertisements is, and even I see it with like my own LifeLock identity protection is the deed. It's like identity protection for your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess is that a real thing to worry about? And if it is, how can you work to prevent that? And what role do you play? Does title insurance play in that process?
So are you talking about the ramp up of where they're talking about the vacant lots that are being sold out from under people pretending to be
yeah,
the
so like
seller?
so I was listening to a housing podcast, and I guess there was one of your underwriters, like Chicago Title or whatever, was on, and they were talking about how there's scams going on, like if a house is paid off and somebody takes out a loan in their name and then pulls the equity out, and and there's fraudulent deeds and whatnot, and kind of like identity theft for the house.
It is. So it's a big deal to us to confirm. I cannot tell you how many times I ask for ID before I even get to the closing.
Right.
Okay. As a lender years ago, you didn't even start a process without their first thing you asked for was their ID.
Well, no, I mean more of like when right, and I know what you're saying, but I mean more of like if somebody owns a house already, like there's alerts where if like somebody tries to I don't know, like get on take a loan in your name or the deed.
Right.
Well, they wouldn't be able to take a loan out in their name. They could fraudulent say that they're you, and that's where the identity and why being protective of I need to see forms of ID. They give us.
But title insurance protects you from that, right? Because it certifies you as the owner. Because sometimes like we'll have clients say like, this seems excessive, the cost for title insurance, whatever. Like, why do I need this? And we just rip through a whole bunch of reasons in this conversation, but. That's another one, right? Like my title.
I have, believe it or not, mostly family, parent and child, that they get the loans, and they have a power of attorney. Mom is sick, and they're doing this. Meanwhile, the other two brothers and sisters had no idea that they mortgaged out the house, and it was fraudulent. So you have to look at if the person is benefiting from this action. So this is how they get around it sometimes, because mom 10 years ago gave power of attorney to the one.
Right.
And now he's going out and taking out loans. And now mom passes and they don't know the other siblings know nothing about this. So you have to look at the deal. Who's benefiting from this?
Right.
What is going on? People think a power of attorney is just, I have a power of attorney. Yeah, my mom's old. She doesn't want to deal with it.
Right.
Why? You have to ask the question.
Right.
I'm sorry to say, but we're in a scary world.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This happens all the time. I have the one right now where I brought up about the son is because the son took out a line of credit in the mom's name.
Right.
And they did not know this. And that's because he had a power of attorney.
Right.
You have to be careful and you have to ask with intent.
Yes.
What is your intention? Why can't she sign? I can notarize anywhere.
Right.
We go to hospitals. Listen, I was notarized. They told me the lady was in labor, and we had to go to the hospital.
I've done closings.
Sign here, push. Sign
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've had 2 children. I don't know if you're signing a paper then.
Dave, who's the power of attorney in your family?
For me?
Yeah, you guys. No, I mean with all your brothers and stuff. With you guys all look the same.
We all look the same.
It don't matter.
I have 3 brothers. We all look the same. So all bald. It is definitely not me. I'm the youngest.
It's important to, there's so much fraud out there.
Yes.
Wire
fraud too, right? Like
it's very, very specific, very clear. And nowadays I still have people that will send a wire without calling my office and verifying.
That's insane.
And let me tell you something, how often that happens that it's a problem. I mean, we literally are in red, bold on emails. Call the office.
I'll tell you a story. Sorry, this just happened to me this morning. So for a old retirement plan, I'm talking from like 15 years ago, I had another company, just received a letter saying that they couldn't manage it anymore. And it kind of looked, official, but, just from being in banking, I was like, let me just double check. But it was a letter saying we're no longer managing your account. So we are going to send you a distribution in January. And they sent me a W-4 and a request for wiring instructions. So they wanted me to fill it out and either email it or send it back, right? And I was like, just from being in the business, it doesn't seem right. So I called, and the retirement provider was like, no, we never sent that. Now think about it, the average person. This letter looked completely legitimate, and and if I would have put my bank, my routing number, my everything, they wanted me to put my social security number on the W-4. I would have emailed it or mailed it back. I probably would have been a victim of identity theft. And it's when you said it's a scary world. I imagine, especially for certain segments of the population that are maybe a little bit older, maybe not so tech savvy, that must happen all the time, and it's scary.
It does, and I pay for a service to have secure emails, and it is something very important. So a closing package, I can remake your entire life. Do you understand, from the bank? This has everything: where you live, your employers, your prior employers, your prior addresses,
yes,
all your account information. And when I tell you, people just send this stuff out. I pay for a secure service. Now, I will send you a secure email, and I will get a phone call. Oh, my God, I got to, turn you. I'm not opening up.
It drives me
takes
nuts.
60.
Yeah,
do you know how many secure emails I open up a day?
I just got one yesterday, and I said the same thing. Oh my God! Now I got to put in my email. Now I got to do this.
Well, sometimes
but you know what? But at the end, like you said,
at the end of the day, I'm sorry to say, but in this world, so I pay for this service. I use it. My attorneys can use it. I have attorneys sending me sale docs to review with the 1099s with full socials on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, why didn't you just tell me to send you a secure email?
Yeah, to do it.
And it's funny because we have that too, like even, at US Bank, like where we'll send to the title company, it's a secure portal where they get the docs and I'm sure it's a 30-second inconvenience, and sometimes we'll have a title company, oh my God, can you just send me everything via email? Like, no. Like,
No.
the person's whole life is on
there. It's their entire life.
Yeah.
And, listen, in today's world, I have privacy, crime, and cyber insurance.
Yeah.
These are not required insurances for title. E&O, million, that's required.
Right.
I have these additional services for this world.
Yeah.
For our protection. I am the settlement agent. I'm handling all the money. You want to know that money is secured and protected. So I have these additional insurance. Your E&O is not protecting you on that.
Yeah.
These are things that average title companies don't all have. It is not cheap. Why?
Right.
Because we're a settlement agent.
And because you're old
Costs
school.
a lot.
And you're old school.
And I'm old school.
Old school.
And
Old
you
school,
learn.
though,
Old
with
school.
technology.
With technology.
Yes.
Not like
Up
old
to
school
date.
without technology.
Yes.
That's it.
I mean, before you walked in, Vito, for a half hour, couldn't find a voicemail on his phone. So
Oh, don't go there,
maybe
Dave.
you should get some old school training over here from Roseanne.
How to retrieve that voicemail.
Yeah.
And guys, if you and girls, if you're listening and you sent me a voicemail that I accidentally deleted,
Whoever you are,
please call me back. I cannot locate it. I deleted it by mistake.
Well, and like the reason I love getting people on, like we kind of like the behind the scenes people in the process is because for the most part, right, everyone just deals with you and me, the realtor and the and the mortgage rep, and maybe they'll see like the inspector. You know what I mean? Like that's
Your brother.
My brother, exactly. But to actually and I hope like attorneys out there and mortgage reps who are listening to this podcast see like what you do and understand the importance of it and share it with their clients, because a lot of times clients will say, well, why am I paying X amount of money? What is this title insurance premium? Do I need it?
And that's why I get more and more buyers nowadays calling me. Buyers don't realize they have control.
Right.
They can pick their title company.
Whoever they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? So now a lot of calls come in about quotes. Now, we're regulated by banking and insurance.
Right.
Correct.
You can't negotiate the premium.
The premium is the premium.
Right.
There are other fees that are negotiable items. We are allowed to charge. There are fees that we are allowed to charge. But there's also another thing, is who is backing you?
Right.
You're picking a title company. Why? So people call me up and they say, well, somebody said that I can call around and get price quotes, and why? And after I'm done with them, after talking to them for 15 minutes, they're like, oh my gosh, yes.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
I did so I belong in a lot of networking groups. I was in a women's networking group last night. She said to me, an older woman, and she said, I've bought and sold houses. She said, I have no idea what title insurance is.
Right.
So I go around and I teach and I explain. But the problem is that we're not just title insurance.
Right.
We're title insurance. We're the settlement agent. We're the post-closing issue. So when everybody goes to do their taxes, and even though I give them a flash drive at closing with their, I try and save on paper. I literally give you an entire flash drive of everything.
Right.
When they needed to go to the accountant when it's tax time, they call me.
Right.
And I have it. As opposed to them waiting a week or 2 weeks and the attorney saying, I don't know where the file is. I keep everything.
Right.
This is something that we're mandated to keep, but I keep everything on a system. I have a dual secure system, on-site, off-site. These are things that we pay for to protect your life that I have in your file, your entire life. So it's definitely very important. I know my stuff. I can come up with a resolution for you. And my biggest thing is I help you prior to, so we can resolve the issue before you go through the process. I work with lenders one-on-one, hand-on-hand. This is what we're having. This is the issue we're having. The attorneys call me up. Ro, I'm not going to be around to deal with this. Can you find out what you can? We need to resolve this. This is what I do. I go out of my way.
Kind of like what I do and what Dave does.
Yeah.
We go out of our way. That's
makes
why
a
we're
difference.
successful.
Well, that's also how you stay in business so long.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
yeah.
It makes a big difference. And you know, people think that for rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
People say to me, oh my God, somebody just asked me today, oh, the rates are 7.5, 8, right? Said, no, the rates don't go by what that board says.
Right.
It's individual.
Yes.
It's program. It's what you can make.
Correct.
So, yeah, did I close somebody 3 weeks ago at 6.75 with no points? Yes, because of that program that they were in. Is everybody getting the housing assistance, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 housing assistance? Yes, if you qualify.
Everyone's situation is different.
Totally different.
Yep.
So I always tell everyone, you know, everyone's so fixated on this number right
On price.
now.
Well, a lot of that is technology and the internet because, you know, before, you know, like when I started in the business in 1998, it was, you know, there was no, you know, online like bank rate or lending
Right.
tree or whatever. So, you know, you just had to go by the word of the person you spoke to. Now everybody has so much access to information that everyone's, well, I saw this and I saw this.
Yes.
They're not reading like the fine print. Like a lot of times, you know,
Yeah.
they'll have a certain rate, but not read underneath like, you know, 40% down or, you know, or primary
Or you
resident.
need $50,000 to put in the bank,
Right,
and then you'll be part of my
right.
portfolio
Right,
loan.
Right, and that's very hard to explain to
explain.
people because
Yes.
you know because there's always a natural like with any salesperson there's always like a natural at first mistrust, and I think that's where you know you have to do your best, you know, and I love what you said about you know like teaching, learning, because I feel like that's how I built my business and Vito built his business is with education, you know, and teaching people, not selling, teaching, and eventually you know you share with the buyer.
right.
This is why. This is the reason. This is the reason why, and this is why, and you know, and it goes a
Absolutely.
long way. Absolutely.
I started something several years ago, and I include everybody on my emails from day one when I start sending out title. So I have everybody. So sometimes there might be 10 people on there. The attorneys, the realtors, the lender.
I
maybe
love
your
that, by the way.
Your processor, right?
Right, you want to be copied on that.
And people asked me, you know, a lot of realtors because they were always left out of it. Not you as the lender so much, but the realtors were.
Right.
And the realtors like, oh my God, Ro, I don't really understand it, but I'm learning so much. I love that you're keeping me in the loop.
Right.
Why? Because you become their best friend. And when Chris calls you and says, hey, I'm understanding my attorneys tell me there's some sort of title issue. What's the delay? You could say, give me a minute, Chris. Now, you didn't have to read the 20 emails the whole time, but you could quickly check.
Right.
Or because of me, that I'm available 24/7, you're going to say, Ro, what's the problem? And I'm like, no problem. Listen, we're already in the works of doing
Right.
a resolution
It's
for
under
it,
control.
right? So I include people. Now, do I still get some old-fashioned people? Sometimes attorneys tell me, Ro, I don't want everybody on
Yeah.
it.
Don't put this person
Right.
on it.
Now,
Like it's like cloak and dagger.
I get the attorney sometimes. Don't put the realtor on there.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I need the guy.
Well, believe me, everyone's going to find out. We're not. These aren't state secrets.
No, and you know, listen, I played sports my whole life. My kids played sports. It's a team effort.
Right.
That's right.
You cannot stand out in this industry as the individual. You
Right.
must work as a team.
Absolutely.
And I work with realtors that I can tell you, listen, I have been through every up and down. Forget the COVID because I started in the 80s.
Right.
So I have seen every angle of
Yeah.
every 10 years of what happened.
Right.
She started when she was 12.
Yes.
16.
60. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went to college and thought I was going down a different whole road, but I stayed.
Yeah, she went to college like you. Right?
Yeah. You've been saving.
You had to put that in there, right?
I
That you
did,
went to
I know.
college.
I want to
I-
know what sports you play. What sports did you play?
I played softball
Oh,
and
nice.
volleyball until I
Okay.
was 40.
Really?
I gave it up because my kids' activities got in the way. But
Oh,
trust
boy.
me, to this day, I
Yeah.
loved it. But yeah, I played. And, you know, we are a team. You
That's
need to
it.
be able to
Yep.
communicate.
Yes.
There is a lot going on every file.
Right.
People do not realize it.
Right.
And I mean, I do more behind the scenes work than people realize until you become part of my team.
Right.
After you do a few transactions with me, you realize that listen, this condo company, nobody was responding. I was literally ready to knock on the door.
Oh,
like, what is
yeah.
going on? You
Right.
can't-
I've done that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 3 months. I've got a lady laying on a couch. I mean,
Right.
trust me, in my business, if I would have years ago bought a boarding house to board everyone that has nowhere to live and we must close, I
Yes.
would probably have done very well.
It is true.
Speaking about knocking on the door, leave it at that. I remember an attorney, every time I would call, he's not in. Can I help you? He's not in. Leave a message. They wouldn't call you back. One day I said, you know what? Son of a gun. I drove to the attorney's office. I parked in his parking lot, okay? And I called. He's not in. I said, try again. No, he's not in. Can I take a message? I've left several messages. And by the way, I would advise you to walk into his office right now and hand the phone, because I'm sitting in your parking lot and I see him behind his desk. You know, can you please just give him the phone? Why do you got to keep telling me he's not in?
That's
So,
what's
you know,
important.
yeah, and
who
you know
you
what I mean?
pick, yes.
Yeah, who you pick.
And
That's
you know,
it.
Ro, coincidentally, that's also how Vito started dating his wife. He waited outside the house and he called Anna's father. I know Anna's in her room. Can you give her the phone?
Listen, that is, you know, people say to me all the time, I have Cousin Joe. I have Cousin Joe who's a part-time realtor, but he's a full-time teacher.
Right.
Okay, I don't know if Cousin Joe's going to be the right
Right
one for
one.
this. You know, listen, everyone does a job, and there's a reason why you do it, and you do
There
it
you
full time,
go.
and you specialize in it, and you
Right.
understand it, and you know it. And you know, I got one. They're trying to plan a closing on Friday. The oil tank is being pulled out on Friday. I don't think we're closing,
We're not
on,
closing
Friday.
on Friday.
Well, the oil tank is being pulled out on the
Right.
same
Oh,
day.
my
Right.
God.
You know, you have to.
It's always
know.
those oil tanks, V.
You need an attorney that does real estate, and if they're not in the office all the time, because an attorney has a right to have
Right,
other
right, to
cases,
leave,
Sure.
but they must have a paralegal.
Legal, right.
So-
Answer my
There has to be a
question.
system-
All
system
I'm
in
People
asking
come
is
to
answer
me
my
and they
question.
say, "Bro, listen, I have a Polish clientele. They speak English. They want to speak Polish. I have a Spanish clientele. They speak English, but they prefer Spanish." You know, I mean, in my office, we're bilingual. You know, I deal with a lot of Egyptian clients, Polish clients, Spanish clients. They want to speak their language.
Of course.
You know, but you want the attorney to at least know both. So I have been doing this so long. So I give out, when people say to me, do you have a realtor? Do you have a mortgage company? Do you have an attorney? I am very particular on that list I give out. Now, I give multiple because I don't know who.
I speak Italian, by the way. Go
Ah,
ahead.
see?
You can keep going.
That's
that?
good to know. So, and that's
Me
where
too,
my
but not as well as
you know
you.
that's where my list grows of building the team and knowing who's the right fit. Or they'll call me up, tell me, listen, I'm going to this listing, but this is what they're telling me. I had a file and they forgot that the deceased brother was on the file. The brother died in 2010. They forgot they bought the property with him. Well, guess what? There's 3 other brother and sisters. They've battled it out. They lost 2 buyers because of it.
Wow.
2 buyers. So what did that listing agent do? He marketed, listed, sold, market, listed, sold. What did the buyer's agent do? So show everybody goes through the process, and here we are.
Here we
Yeah.
are. Yep.
Right? So listen, their knowledge is wealth. I am invested in all areas of getting it done. I work with everybody. I'm available and I work with you. Tell me what's going on, what's happening with this. It's very, very important on how it's handled. And, you know, my end game is that, you know, I close wherever, whenever. You know, listen, closing out of the country, out of state, it's a very common thing.
Yep.
It's very
Yeah.
easy. People get all nervous. Somebody calls me, they're like, "Oh my God, you know, they're out in North Carolina," or 2 weeks ago, they're in the Bahamas.
Right.
You know, there's a treaty in different countries.
Mhm.
I forget if it's 12 or 13 different countries. You don't have to go to the consulate to sign paperwork if you're out of the country. We have a treaty. There's a different type of notary, an apostille notary. Okay, it's a lot easier sometimes than
Right.
going to the consulate.
Wow.
People don't know these things.
I didn't know that either.
They think, "Oh my God, I'm going out of the country. I have to find someone, and we have to pay extra for a
Yeah.
power of attorney and all this." They don't understand. Okay, you know what? I have one right now. They're in Spain. Spain is part of the treaty.
Right.
You could make an appointment at the consulate, but if you can't get one because it's 60 days behind, we find the apostille notary, and we
Wow.
do it that way.
I bet you didn't know that, V, and you're a man of
Not know
international
that.
mystery.
The only thing I know is I had to go to the consulate when I think I was 17, 18 maybe at the time. I was going back to Italy. I had to go to the consulate to let them know that I lived in America, because as soon as I came off that plane, I was joining the army in Italy.
Oh.
Yeah,
Because you were born in Italy.
Because I was
Because
born
you
in
were
Italy.
born there.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they were taking me.
Oh my
They
God.
were taking me away. Good thing I went to the consulate. They didn't take me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, and people have a misconception of if you're not a citizen that you can't buy property in New Jersey.
You absolutely could buy
You
property.
absolutely
Yes,
can buy property in
absolutely.
New Jersey. You can buy cash a lot easier if there's a lender. There could be
You can get a
different
mortgage, yeah.
qualifications.
You could get a
selling
mortgage.
is different.
You get a mortgage even without a social.
Yep,
Yeah.
and selling is different, but
America.
What a country.
What a country.
Good thing
No,
you
so-
sold
no,
the
so-
donkey.
no,
to
good
come
thing I
here.
sold the donkey. No social. It was a mule, by the way. No social security yet. I can buy a house.
hey, the biggest thing is supporting our small industry.
Yes.
That's it.
Don't go after the big companies. Support the
Support-
little man in
man,
this country.
that's
That's
it.
what makes our
Right.
country.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
This is great, Roseanne. What'd you think about this? I love it.
I love it.
We just sit, we talk,
Yeah.
we go through things. I wait, hold on. We got a gift
I
here
sent you
from
a couple
Roseanne.
goodies, but you're
Oh,
lying.
look at this. Let's see here. Let's see what we got.
Are there cannolis in there, B?
No
Nah,
cannoli.
just a.
Oh, look at this.
Listen, I
babe.
know we all use our phones,
Phones.
but this, I need my book still. I still
Oh,
have to have
oh,
yeah.
that's great. I
have to
definitely
have it
need
open.
Oh, look at that. And
That'll keep your beer warm.
That's
Nice.
Your
it.
little tissues.
Yeah, let's keep my wine
See?
a little cool. Maybe
Look
some-
at that.
Look at this, the
The
tissues
tissues.
every time I cry.
I need
Yeah.
a scrap pad when I'm on the
One
phone all
wrong.
the time so
Yes.
I can doodle.
That's nice.
But Roseanne, you're so informative. I mean, this was great. The one thing I got to ask, though, I got to ask Dave this question, okay?
Uh-oh.
Dave,
Uh-oh.
what are the rates today?
I can't answer that.
You can't answer that?
For regulatory issues, I
For
can't
regu-
answer. Yeah, I can't
Okay.
answer that. Sorry.
All right. No, I was just, what do you think the rates are?
Where do I think rates are going?
Or where do you think they are today?
So let me put it this way: the best answer I could give you, and I'm sure you guys are going to see this in the industry as well, is rates have started to come down.
Down.
Yes.
That's
Okay,
where I was
so
trying.
off their peak, about a month or 2 months ago, was the highest rates have ever been. They are about 25 to 30% lower off the peak, which is great. And it looks like the Fed, again, economists and
The bonds
predictions are
rallied
like
again today. So they
right.
sort of
Economists
went
and predictions are like the weather, but it looks like for prospective buyers and sellers out there, it looks like the market or rates are starting to slowly
A downward
trickle
trend.
back down, which is good. I mean, for nothing else, it'll help affordability. It'll help people get off the sideline and maybe sell their home and and buy another home if rates are a little bit lower. So
Well, hey, listen, the one big thing I can say to that is that people thought for years, because of that time period, that 2 and 3% was just an average thing. I can tell you, if you look back over the past 25 years, this is not a height. I know when my mom purchased a property, it was 16%.
Yeah,
Right.
it was
You have to
crazy.
buy, you have to sell, you have to
Right.
refinance, you have to pay for college, you need money,
Money.
you need to
You're
do
gonna
these
pull your
things,
money
right?
Well, the problem though right now though is it's which and I know everyone says that, like, even when I started it was like 14%, and there is an affordability factor to it. Houses were half the price,
Absolutely.
but that's not even the problem. Rates aren't the problem. And I said this when I came back on. I think I was in here in February. Is everybody?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Our first guest
Yeah.
that didn't bring the bottle of wine. Go
Yes,
ahead.
everybody has a lower rate, because they refinanced during COVID. So everybody, 80% of the people in this country have a rate below 4%. Nobody wants to list their home and buy another one and double their interest rate. So you won't see that logjam break until rates come back down just a little bit more. If I were to guess, I would say if rates hover around 6% early next year, if they hover around 6% early next year, I think you will start to see more listings come on the market.
I absolutely agree.
It'll get crazy.
Evolution, it has to keep happening. People have to buy, sell.
People,
right,
like
you're
I had
always
I had a
balanced.
client the other day who was just like, listen, I have a baby coming, my second one, and we've outgrown the home. There is a natural progression,
Yeah.
and builders are starting to catch up. I talked about this when I was on the show last time. Builders are now starting to catch up as, a little bit slower, but there are more homes out there, and that are going to be available. So you're going to start seeing baby boomers say, I don't need this big house anymore. There is a natural progression. There's a natural flow to the life of owning a home, right?
Yep.
And it was disrupted by COVID, but I think we're going to slowly get back on track.
Sure. Good. Well, this was really, really great. Roseanne, you were very, very informative. My wine has finished, but we can keep going on and on. But I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah,
I really
thank you.
enjoyed you coming. Dave, you had a lot to do with this, and
Thanks for having me, V.
even though you didn't bring the wine. But on that note, one day, and that day will come when you need to buy or sell a house. And when that day does come, you will need to call the godfather of Northern New Jersey real estate, Vito Cantuzzi. Thank you.